Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dave Sands. Welcome to the Food Origins podcast. I'll be talking to people about their unique stories with food. And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support, and thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Food Origins podcast with me, your host, Dave Sands. Today, I get to sit down with Geoffroy Raby. He's the owner and restaurateur of Cuisinett Bistro Market in San Carlos, California. Geoffroy is from Lille, a small town in northern France called Lille. And we talk about his days growing up there. And we get into how Cuisinett came about out here in California, and dealing with the pandemic as a restaurant owner. And also we talk about the infamous stinky cheese from his hometown. I really enjoyed this episode, and we were able to record this on location at his restaurant. I appreciate him and for doing that and his time. Hope you enjoy it. Take care. All right, man, we are rolling.
All right. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Appreciate you coming on, Geoffrey.
Thank you.
How do you pronounce your name correctly?
Geoffroy.
Geoffroy.
Yeah.
And then your last name?
Raby.
Raby.
Oh, Raby.
Yep. I'm here with Geoffroy from Cuisinett Bistro Market in San Carlos, California, and we're on location. So let's get right into it. You know, we're talking about food and yourself. Why don't you tell us where you're from? I kind of know where you're from, but why don't you give us your background from where you are and
little intro.
Yeah,
sounds good. Sounds good. So I'm originally from north of France, a place called Lille. It's about the fifth largest city in France, and so I was born and grew up there, and I came to the U.S. about 21 years ago now. I came after high school. And I was never supposed to be here. I just was dreaming to come to the US since I'm 15. And I wanted to come learn English and then go back to France, do a business school. So I stayed for 1 year in San Francisco. Then I traveled through the whole US for a month on Greyhound buses, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
that was a cool experience.
No
train?
No. Okay.
Really good experience. And then I'm back in France after this full year, and supposed to go for business school. I'm like, wow, I don't think this is what I want to do. And I decided to come back here to the US, and I did my study here at the university. I studied finance and marketing, but in order to make money, that's when I started to work in restaurant. And so I always worked in the front of the house, it's called. It's always as a server, floor managers, and that's when I really got into the whole restaurant business. And I really loved it. And I ended up doing most of my projects at school, marketing plan, business plan. They were all about the restaurant all the time. And graduated in 2007. At that time, I wanted to open the restaurant, but I'm glad I did not. Economy collapsed in 2008. I never had enough money at that time. And also, it's like I got different experiences in the between. But 2011, that's when I opened Cuisinett. So really good experience.
Yeah. Why don't you give us, for those that don't know where in France that is, why don't you give us kind of a little background on your hometown?
Yeah, that sounds great. So Lille is north of France. So a lot of people get confused. They always tell me like, oh, Brittany or Normandy or Alsace. But if you look at the map of France, we have kind of like a tip on in the top of the map. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm from. I'm about 15 minutes from the Belgian border. So I grew up in France, of course, but going often to Belgium has a huge influence on my taste, on a lot of things. But then it's about 1 hour north of Paris by train. And it's about 35 minutes from Calais, where you take the channel to go to England.
Okay.
So really up north, best way I always describe it to people is it's like Seattle. You know, it's overcast, rainy.
A little bit of fog.
Yes, but really warm people. when everybody who goes to north of France usually have a great experience. You're really welcome, and so it's a beautiful city. The city dates from like 1600. We have an old district plus the new town, and with all the surrounding towns is the agglomeration is about like 1 million people.
Wow. And then I was reading a couple things. Do they have like a yearly market that everyone seems to come out for? Tell us about that.
So that's really cool because that brings me back memories when I grew up there.
Yeah.
First weekend of September. That's usually when we call it la braderie de Lille. So braderie is more like I forgot how to say it in English. It's like a free market.
Yeah,
on
or
the
open
street.
market maybe.
Open market, yeah. They have one here in Alameda.
Okay.
It's where people like bring the from the attics, like the garage sale, I would call it.
Yeah.
So they'll try to sell everything that they have extra at home. So it could be like some antiques, some clothes, some. At that time when I grew up, it was like everybody was looking for CDs for music and CD player, your Walkman from Sony.
So it's not just produce and goods. It's
a
kind
mix,
of everything.
Yeah,
almost like a flea market.
Correct.
Right.
So the attraction is the flea market, but then around that, of course, the whole city is being close to the car. So you get like I think the numbers. Were reaching like 4 million people coming over the weekend.
Wow.
It's huge. And you can walk on the street and it has like different dynamics. So, like in the morning you have the people who are looking for good deals in terms of antiques, clothes and things like that. And as the day goes by, you have more people relaxing, going to the restaurant,
changes,
get drunk, and then after at night you get the younger crowd that comes out, and then it goes all night long. You have people playing music on the street, and you can drink on the street, you can eat. There's a lot of like food carts, and it's just a huge and great experience.
That sounds awesome. Is that small town Lille, right? Lille is known. Do they have a stinky cheese or the stinkiest?
We do have, one
what
of them.
What cheese is that?
Maroilles.
Okay. Can you describe that to us? Tell us about it. Yeah.
So it's one of those cheese that I don't know how to make it, but it's something that have a very strong smell. So like if you get it in your fridge at home, you tend to put it in a box. It's that strong.
Okay.
You really want to separate it from other cheeses as well.
Yeah.
And we use it, so usually you can spread it on bread. That's delicious.
Okay.
We also we use it in the cooking pot. So you can make like une tarte flambée. It's like a dry pizza. Mm-hmm. But you put that cheese. We use it on, like in some dishes.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's delicious, but it's like in Asia they have the durian.
Durian, yeah.
That's kind of illegal in some hotels and things like that.
Right.
For us, it would be kind of like the similar product.
Okay, so
but it's delicious though.
But it's delicious.
Oh yeah.
What would you compare it to? Is there some? So as far as taste goes for everybody.
So in terms of consistency, first it's kind of like a creamy. Triple cream cheese kind of. Okay. But then in terms of flavor, it's like the smell is like, and it's horrible to say, but it's like stinky feet.
Okay. I was going to say bad, like sticky socks or something.
Oh yeah. Like I always laugh with my kids, they have sticky, stinky feet, and I'll tell them, you smell like maroilles. So they know.
That's great.
They're twin boys. But then the flavor is not as strong. The flavor itself is very mild.
So the taste is not.
So it's the
very
smell.
Mild. Yeah. Okay. And then, before we get into some of your childhood eating and stuff, you've been working in restaurants since you were younger. Is that right?
Since I came to the U.S.
Okay.
So I was 19, 20 years old. Uh-huh. And so I started to work from that time. And always when I was going to school, I always kept. So I was full-time student as well as a full-time, because I had to live my life here. That's why I got into restaurants. I would work like 6-7 shifts a week and then go full-time at school.
Yeah. Where was that at?
So I started the first 2 years. I went to City College of San Francisco.
Yep.
Where I met actually some of my best friends, and we're still friends today. And then after that, I transferred to San Francisco State. But it was kind of funny because I didn't know anything when I came in. And before going to City College, I called, because I heard from the movies, I called Stanford. And with my bad English, I say, hi, my name is Geoffroy. I want to be student at your school. Where do I sign up? They talk to me and they say, oh, that doesn't work that way.
And where's the check?
Exactly.
For the tuition that's about 3 times what everything else is. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but it was good experience.
Okay.
I really kind of
like
got into it.
as far as restaurants, do you remember what restaurants you were working at?
Yeah. First experience. So I was living in the Tenderloin in San Francisco.
Okay.
I didn't have money much, so I live in one of those kind of hostel. You share a room. There's one kitchen for the whole building.
Okay.
And close by there was a restaurant. It's closed now. It was on Venice and Turk. It was called Lions.
Okay.
It's kind of like your Denny's, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
Large menu. They'll do everything.
Yeah, that's an old brand.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And it was very difficult for me because my English was really bad, and I could get the job because the general manager, basically, when he found out that I'm French, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna need you," even though I couldn't speak English. He said, "I'll put you, sir," because he had a signed contract with a tour operator. And so during the year, they would send group of French people to visit California or San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
And Lions was one of the stops where they would eat.
Okay.
And so for me, it was easy. It was like a group of 20, 30 people. And
you take care of everybody.
That's how I got the first experience. Because I still remember when I applied in restaurant, I was like, anything, dishwasher or...
Yeah,
and
sure.
so, they said no. He put me in as a server and it was tough. I mean, not speaking the language was very difficult.
I bet. So let's get into it. Let's get into, what'd you eat when you were growing up?
So, north of France, it's very kind of standard because we have a lot of influences. So, like, for example, my parents were the firstborn in France. So on my dad's family, they came from Russia. And on my mom's family, they came from Poland, originally, their parents.
Okay.
And so if you look at north of France, you have a lot of influences from that plus the type of French food. It's cold weather. So it was a lot of, you eat a lot of stew, soups, very kind of like stronger food. Not
hearty, yeah.
Yeah. So for example, that kind of a good experience. When I was 7 years old, so 1987, we were at the dinner table. My mom cooked every day, and we would wait for my dad to come back from work. And so, we'll eat around 8 p.m. And one night, we taste this dish that she made. We're like, whoa, there is a different flavor. And she said, yeah, I'm starting to use olive oil. Because she was cooking everything with butter before.
Okay.
And she read in a magazine that olive oil was great. And
yeah.
In 1987, olive oil was not really known in north of France. So we tried it, and it was like, oh, wow, what a different flavor.
Yeah.
And we loved it. But it was, like when you start making dishes with olive oil instead of butter, everything changes. Your palate has to adapt and everything.
Yeah.
And it's very different because, like, when we go on vacation and go to south of France, like, for example, sometimes I had a hard time to like the food there because I was so used to the type of food I was eating in north of France. Like, we have a carbonate flamande. It's like a bœuf bourguignon. It's a stew.
Yeah.
We use the beef cheek, and we use beer and brown sugar in it.
Oh, nice.
So you have these great flavors.
Right.
Then, like we would eat fish, but the way we would cook fish in north of France is not like grilled. It's more like baked in ovens.
Okay.
One thing my mom would force me was she was cooking like pork dishes. I hated it. Had such a hard time.
Just didn't like it?
No, too dry and.
Was it just boiled or?
No, it was kind of cooked in the oven again. Same thing, but no
roasted out.
Yeah, no, it was not brine. It was not.
It's not sitting in
nothing.
anything.
No sauce.
No
sauce. It was weird.
Yeah.
We have this dish that I grew up and brings me bad memories. Is
we want to know those too. Yeah. Tell us.
So les endives au gratin.
Okay.
So what you do is you take those Belgian endive. And you wrap them with ham, and you put them in a pot, and add a bechamel sauce, and finish it with cheese, and finish the whole dish in the oven.
Wow!
But the thing is, and I've learned later on only. So my mom would never cut the inside of the endive, the bitter flavor. And so when it cooks, the endive becomes very soft and bitter.
Okay.
So it was really hard for me to eat it. And then when I came to the US, I told one time a friend of mine, is like, you never ate it the right way. And then he made it. It's delicious.
Oh, see, that's awesome. And that's just a little tweak, right?
Yeah,
just a little tiny thing.
Yeah.
And I agree, like, eating bitter things when you're a kid was difficult,
tough.
you know. I didn't like coffee. Like I'm young, but like, when you're younger, you don't drink that. But I mean, like later, it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
It's not
for
something
sure.
you just pick up. Potatoes was not a big thing for me when I was growing up. Just like baked potatoes or boiled potatoes, it just tasted strange.
For us, was actually opposite. It's potatoes. Was every meal.
Yeah.
Potatoes, veggies were maybe spinach and broccoli. We didn't have as many. That's why I love California. We have so many great produce here.
Yeah.
In north of France, it's like very standard, like your peas, carrots, broccoli. And potatoes, and that was it.
And that's just kind of what's
mostly
available?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was when we would see something more, like for example, the zucchini was not all year long in north of France. So
Okay.
a lot of items like that we don't have.
What about herbs?
Herbs, we had everything.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tarragon, chervil, parsley, chives. Yeah, definitely a lot. But fruit-wise, same thing. Just your classic apricot, oranges, but not too many fancy fruits.
Yeah.
Avocado was non-existent. I remember
that's all everybody wants now.
I know, and I remember growing up. If we would have an avocado, my mom would make it on the special Sunday lunch. That was important. It's like a special treat.
Do you agree that we should be treating some things like a special treat? Do you think having it too available can be kind of,
I think so, because you're losing the whole pleasure. It's like,
take it for granted, right?
Exactly. Like one day my kids were telling me we're in the car and they say, I wish I would have my birthday every day. And I said, no, you don't want that, because if you have your birthday every day, how can you really enjoy the pleasure of having your birthday?
Yeah.
And same thing with the produce, or like even eating too much meat is not fun. Eating too much. So I think it's good to have a well-balanced diet.
Yeah, and like you were talking about with butter, a lot of people think French food is just all, butter, but it's,
Has a big part for sure.
It has a big part.
But we can cook without.
But you can cook
so
without
many
it,
items.
yeah.
Oh yeah, so many items.
Yeah. But like, it's just moderation, right? Trying to keep things in moderation and keep yourself healthy too.
Yeah.
At the same time.
I go back to France once or twice a year at least.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always amazed how, like most people in France still, drink wine, eat a lot of cheese and cook with butter and things like that. But you look at the general population and you don't have as many obese people. Then when I started to do more research, I realized one of the things is moderation, as you were saying, is very important. And the second is eating fresh product instead of processed food.
Processed food, yeah.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah, I was going to say just eating whole foods. Like, if it was a tomato, then that's a tomato, not like forced into something else.
I think it's key for a lot of things. Is even when I go to France now, I love to cook because many times you don't have access to everything, but then you do with what you find. And there's still like what I love when I go back is we still go like to the butcher shop. Mm-hmm. I go to the bakery to get the bread.
Yeah.
So you have your large supermarket, but then you also have the smaller ones still.
Right, and putting it all together.
Yeah, I really love it.
Because you have small bakery, you might know that not everybody goes to.
Yep.
It's not mass-produced bread, small batches, right?
Yeah. So definitely, it's great to see, and I think there is a revival in France lately is to the more like artisan style of stores.
Mm-hmm.
So you start seeing, for a while we lost all the local butcher, the local fishmonger, everything was coming from the supermarket. But lately, over the past between 5 and 10 years that I go back, I start seeing, like, especially in smaller town, they're bringing back like the butcher shop, and you know, like the guy knows where he gets the meat.
Yeah.
So you know, like you have this more direct connection between the people who raise or grow the product and the people who distribute it, and that feels good because you know.
And we're starting to see more of it here too.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love going to the farmers market, and you can kind of see things are starting to come back. Where hey, there's a fish purveyor. He's all seafood. Yeah. Exactly. And then there's a cattle farm, and they'll also have pork, and they might have chicken as well.
Yeah, you know, that's what I like. I took my kids a few times with my wife. We went to this place in Sonoma. It's called Terra Farm. Mm-hmm. And I love it because you can do like free tours, and they'll show you. It's a smaller farm, but they have almost everything.
Terra Farm?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. T-A-R-A Farm in Sonoma. I don't know how they're doing post-COVID, but I loved it because you could go there and, you know, like you'll see the chicken coop where you get the eggs. Mm-hmm. They have cattle. They have pork. They grow produce. And then after you finish the tour, you can buy directly from them. Yeah. And you know, when you see that, it's a good feeling. Or I went the other day to Haley Farm, you know, the goat farm by Pescadero.
Yes, the cheese, yeah.
Cheese, mm-hmm. and it was great to show the kids that, you know, like that's where the cheese come from.
Yeah, and they can see the goats.
And the goats and the process and how it's done. And, you know, you go there and you're like, wow, I wish we're heading more towards that direction than, you know, those big process company that, you know, I mean, as happy as I am to see like a line at the Chick-fil-A down the street, kind of makes me sad to see that people get so excited about it.
Yeah, it's tough, especially for us when we can, you know, we cook ourselves and we're like, I can make that at home if I really wanted to, and good bread and good piece of chicken. Yeah. And you know, there's a couple farms I like out here, and we've got some good butchers too, but like there's Markegard Family Farm. Mm-hmm. They've got thousands of acres out here, and they do the same thing. Farm tour. You can see the cattle. You can, you know, see some of those chickens. They have these. Actually, I think they're French. There's these special brown chickens. I got to think of the name.
Bresse.
Maybe, yes. Yeah. They specifically like those, they said, and they grow those only, and so you kind of get to see it up front and personal. And
in France we have those chicken, very famous. Poulet de Bresse.
Yeah, so they really like those. They said out of all the chickens to grow,
very tasty.
Yeah, that's kind of every little bit of everything they like. They like growing them, and then obviously the finished product is super tasty.
Yeah, makes a difference for sure.
It does. We're gonna get into, you know, some adult, you know, back up to now that you're older. What's some of the, you know, go into some of the best and worst restaurant experiences you've had in your life?
In general?
In general, and it doesn't have to be here. It's anywhere you want. Yep.
So best experience lately, because I've done many restaurants from all types. So from like your 3 Michelin star to you know, your down the street food cart. And you know, it's always I would say as I grow older, I'm trying to stay away from those fancy you know, 10 courses dinners and things like that, and I started to appreciate more like a good 3-course dinner. And it doesn't have to have like, the restaurant doesn't have to have the best like stars or recognition, but it has to be true to itself, in the sense of when you go to a restaurant and you know that they really care about the food they do, and it shows, and they don't have to really explain it to you. That's the best experience you can have. You know, like menus are smaller, but you know that what they have is really good quality. Now, I still like in San Francisco lately. Huge fan of a foreign cinema. It's first thing is it's consistently good. It's not like the best restaurant in the world, but the experience itself is phenomenal. Went to Lazy Bear, phenomenal experience. It's more like a dining. You buy your ticket ahead of time. They'll make you go to the living room upstairs. You'll get cocktails. You discuss. They choose where you sit next to people. It's communal table, and the experience was just phenomenal. I mean, another one that was really, really good it's a friend of mine, so it might be biased, but
No, that's okay too. Local shout out if you know them. Cool.
Niku Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Niku Steakhouse, and he has a butcher shop next to it.
Is that Guy?
Yeah, Guy is Guy. I know Guy, but my friend is the owner.
Okay.
Guy is part owner. My friend Cash owns the whole group. They own Dumpling Time. They own Omakase that has a 1 Michelin star.
Yeah.
And why I did like Niku, and I recommend to sit at the chef's counter. When my friend was telling me how he designed the restaurant, he went to Japan multiple times to re-understand the culture and the food culture. So, for example, the kitchen where the meat is cooked, it's open to the public, and you have a counter in front, and they basically dug the ground so that the kitchen is lower. So when the chef looks at you, he's under you at eye level.
Oh, wow.
And that type of attention to detail along with great food is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of in France and Spain and Italy, I have multiple experience like that too, where, you know, like you'll go to a restaurant and it's just simple. You know, like when people ask me at the restaurant, they say, "Oh, I'm going to France. Where should I eat?" I say it's very simple. I say always choose a restaurant that looks like the husband is in the kitchen, the wife in the front running it. They don't show you the food ahead of time, you know, like they present it on a display or something like that.
Right.
Then it's never good. And always choose menus that are very small.
If
it's too big, it's not going to be good.
There's your travel advice, folks, right there. Okay.
That's it. So, but in terms of bad experience, I've had few, and you know, it's hard for me to really say anything, but bad experience will come, and I can see it is if they don't pay attention to details of the restaurant. Like, let's say the food is sloppy, they don't pay attention to how they present it.
Yeah.
You can see the quality of the ingredient is not good. You know, when, like, let's say some chicken is a simple item, correct?
Yeah.
But a bad chicken can have like a bad taste or bad smell.
Yeah.
And you try to cover it with a sauce, then that's a bad sign.
Are you a fan of waiters trying to memorize your order?
Oh, no, I still like when they write it down.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they try. I mean, I used to be a server for many years.
Sure.
And I used to write it down all the time, so it's easier when, you know, like imagine the customer say, "Oh, that's not what I ordered," and I go back to my little notebook and say, "No, this is exactly what you ordered. We talked about it," and it's easier for me. Yeah, but you know, now it's convenient because, like, for example, here at the restaurant a few years ago, we switched to Square for the POS.
Yeah.
And my servers are taking orders directly at the table with the tablet.
And that's perfect.
It minimizes all the mistakes. So
and that leads us kind of right into Cuisinett. So, you know, Geoffroy is the owner of Cuisinett Bistro and Market. Why don't you tell us about Cuisinett? We know it's been here since 2011, right?
Yep.
And you just had your 10-year anniversary last year.
Yeah, going on.
So congrats on that.
It's funny because I opened the restaurant, and that was kind of pure luck in a way. I opened on October 6, 2011, and I came back to the US on October 6, 2001.
Wow.
So that was kind of like a
10-year.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I didn't plan it, but it was cool.
It's destiny.
Yeah. Here we go. But yeah, no, the restaurant. So when I was doing my research about opening a French restaurant, you know, I was doing marketing research, and I said, every time people look at French food as fancy, small portion, kind of like hard to approach, you know, not family friendly in general. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, in France, we eat every day. We have those neighborhood cafe. And so that's why the restaurant, I called it Cuisinett. And then I put the tagline French comfort food at the beginning. And the idea was, the theme of the restaurant was to make people discover France through the different regions. And so I had like a custom-made illustration made in France. And I cut it off. I did 6 regions of France to make it easier instead of 22. Yeah. And each dish or each sauce would come from a different regions of France. And that was kind of like the entertainment part. And I wanted it to be like the casual neighborhood spot where you can come. We would stay open all day. No reservation. Place the order at the counter. sit down, we'll bring you the food to the table. And we've been doing all the way up to COVID, we're doing about 200, 250 people a day on a 44 seats restaurant.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here on location, so.
Yeah, so it's been a great journey, but, when COVID hit, was kind of a wake-up call too, is I realized that French food is not your first call for to-go. So financially, we would never make it as staying a French comfort food, just doing to go, because just the packaging, when we package things, people always think when they think of to go, they think of Mexican food, Indian food, Chinese food, and those foods are great for to go. I think they were made to be for to go. But French food, it's kind of, you have your protein, your sauce on the side dish. It requires more stages to put it into a to-go containers.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to mix certain ingredients, so you need to take more boxes. So I just realized it was getting very difficult in terms of to-go, but there was a market for it still. So that's why during COVID, I had to pivot and change the business model. So the way I was looking at it is I started to say, okay, we have to look at commercial space a different way and not rely on just one stream of income, which was the restaurant Cuisinett French comfort food. Now what I did is we have 3 main stream of income.
Okay.
So the first one is I created a French market. In France, we call them Epicurie. And this one, I took basically 2 tables out of the restaurant, so 6 seats. Mm-hmm. But then when I calculated, the market brings me more per year than the 6 seats that I lost.
Okay.
And especially with the new challenges of a labor shortage, it was great because I didn't have to add more labor, but I could add revenue. So the market has been a great move, and we sell wine at a retail price, charcuterie, pâté, crackers, dry goods like olive oil, vinegar, mustards, and also all the sweets, French cookies, the madeleine, macaron, and things like that. And it's been actually a great way to attract people into the restaurant. And then the 2 other stream of income are the to-go. So I had to redo my website with an online system that was very convenient, powerful, with great marketing, so we can encourage people to order. And it's streaming the process where they can pay online, they come and they just pick up the food and go. That one has been doing really great as well. And the third stream of income is I switched from that fast casual restaurant into a full bistro. So it's like a step above, where now we do half of the restaurant is on reservation and the other half is on walk-ins. So we try to satisfy everybody.
Nice.
And my servers are taking the order at the table now, as well as the payment. So it's very convenient. And the good thing behind was, again, with the labor shortage, it was great because we were still able to operate with the same amount of people and continue to grow. So.
And that's awesome. And that's getting into what you wanted to talk about. We were mentioning before we started was the pandemic. I mean, it really, really took a toll on the restaurant industry. Why don't you tell us maybe some of the things, obviously you figured it out, how to change. But I mean, initially you yourself and many other restaurateurs were in shock as what to do. Oh yeah. Kind of tell us about that. Kind of tell us maybe some of the support you got, or some of the, zero support you got. Kind of tell us how you, juggled that. So that point of having to close for a certain amount of time.
It was tough. So the first thing is, of course, no one believed that we would close doors, but I saw it so I was following all the news, like the COVID growing up, and then I don't know if you recall, there was a cruise ship that came into the bay.
Yes.
And everybody was freaking out, thinking, oh God, are we going to get contaminated? And they put those people into a hotel in San Carlos, so that kind of made us scared. And I remember March 18, I had to close shop, mandatory. And so I didn't want to do to-go at that time because I knew to-go would not make sense, and I didn't know where it was going. So I closed the restaurant and I called my landlord and I say, and my vendors as well. I say, guys, I have the money to pay you, but for now I'm holding off all payments until I figure out where we're heading because no one knows.
Yeah.
And I got very lucky. My landlord, super supportive. It's like, don't worry about anything. Let's go. Week by week, we'll do a quick update, see how it goes.
Nice.
All my vendors were all good. They supported me right away. They say, don't worry, we're in that same boat. We're all trying to figure it out. But the most important is I anticipated it. I didn't want to wait until they approached me to ask me what I'm going to do. So I went to them directly, and even to all my employees. I say, guys, I had 17 employees. We had a meeting, and I said, okay, what do you need the most? And so I would help them like to pay the cell phone bill so they could stay in communication. Help them if they need a little bit of money or things like that to, kind of the next few weeks.
Yeah.
We had food at the restaurant, so they were coming to get food for free. And, you're trying to figure out. So I had to shut down for 6 weeks.
Okay.
And for the 6 weeks was very interesting as my wife would work from home because she has her own job. She works for a tech company in the facility and real estate department.
Okay.
So she could work from home and I would come with the kids here. They would do online school. So they'll stay inside of the restaurant and I'll be in my office at the restaurant and be able to focus on what's next. And you think about it and you're like, wow, what are we going to do? Everybody was kind of figure out. I have a lot of friends who owns restaurant.
Yeah.
So we would talk to each other every day, do some video calls, send text, ideas. What are you planning to do? What direction? And it was very interesting because first I felt a sense of community. And then we had a huge support from, it was about to be 10 years for the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And so many of my customers, and thanks God to social media, were able to give kind of like an update, what's going on, what we're planning to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of the customers were buying gift cards to supporters. They were sending me money. They asked me how could they help. And not just words. It was like they would really help. And so we had that. And then after I followed up, I got help from governments. I'm running the business very clear, so it was easy to apply and everything. And I'm very fortunate for the help from the government. That was definitely a big thing. And it's funny because even though during COVID we never made money, I kept, we started back with 4 employees, opening only at night, and we started to do to-go. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I revised my to-go program, and I thought, okay, if people are at home, usually they're either 2 or 4 in general.
Right.
So all our portions, when we reopened for the to-go only after 6 weeks, was portion for 2 or for 4.
I remember that. Yeah.
What was good is people enjoyed it because they could get a little extra, and then it would be the lunch the next day, or they have food for the rest of the week and they don't have to go out as much.
Get another one.
So that was kind of the first thing that we did. And then I remember the first time they let us reopen, I didn't do it for the outdoor dining. I didn't do it because I had a feeling they would close us again and I didn't want to go through the yo-yo of hiring and all of that. And so I waited and they did shut us off after 3 weeks or something. I forgot the exact detail. But so I waited at least until we reopened like April 5th of 2021, Okay. That's when I reopened outside. I was very careful because I was talking with my employee as well. We were all scared and trying to do the safest thing possible.
Yeah.
I did not appreciate a lot of restaurants trying to sneak around and do like private event inside of their restaurant behind curtains or not following the guideline. And unfortunately, that's one of the bad things with COVID. I was hoping people would be more careful, but then you realize some people don't care. And I was really careful. So
yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, I don't know if you got COVID. I never got it the whole time.
I did. I did get it actually on my last day in France August. And I was supposed to fly back and I got
held
stuck.
Up. Oh my gosh.
10 extra days.
Yeah,
but I was fine. I'm vaccinated.
I am as well. But it's just, it's a tough thing, right? It just boils down to how healthy you are, how much you are aware of yourself too. Sometimes it's just, being aware that, hey, I am sick today. I probably shouldn't be out and about.
Yep. And
not just I might have COVID. It's like,
yeah,
I don't feel good. I might pass this on to
stay home,
somebody
yeah.
else,
And I think it's a good habit to have. I think what comes out of that is, as much as I'm not fan of the mask, if you look at it, the past 2 flu seasons have been very low.
Yeah.
Because people were keeping masks or, I remember my wife has to travel a lot internationally and in the US.
Yeah.
And, of course, pre-COVID, and the past 2 or 3 years pre-COVID, she started to fly and put a mask because she was getting sick easily in planes. With the
it's just because the air fluctuates all the way around the whole plane. So if someone's sick on the plane, like not too far from you.
So that was kind of interesting. She would wear the mask and she would not get as sick. So it's kind of that COVID really showed us first how resilient we are. We always try to find ways to come out of it. Find ways to survive. But I can tell you, like, even now, so we're April 2022. We haven't fully recovered in terms of business.
Okay.
We're about 70% of what we used to do.
Okay.
There is multiple factors. Like in downtown San Carlos, they closed to the car traffic a few blocks of Laurel Street.
Right.
So everybody goes there. So we lost on our street, on our block, which is still another part of downtown, about 80% foot traffic. So that was huge. And I'm glad I opened that French market. And with my neighbors, we're trying to revive the street. We're doing live music on Wednesday night. We might add another night.
Nice.
And, we're trying to be creative to recreate the experience.
Yeah. And when did you get the parklet? How long have you had that?
So they gave it to us fairly early when they closed the street. But the problem was, at first they keep on the city of San Carlos would give it for a few months and then say you're gonna have to remove it. And so for us, a restaurant with no money, and not sure what's the future.
It's not that easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and this is a dual one with next door, right?
So what we did is on our street we have 7 restaurants next to each other.
Yeah.
And all the owners we talked to try to make it more pleasant to the eyes.
Yeah.
And more kind of like a streaming, a much better parklets that looks more homogeneous. It looks kind of the same because you go to a lot of downtowns and
it just looks natural is what you're trying to say.
Yes, thank you.
It doesn't look out of place.
Yes, a lot of downtown, they were letting restaurants do whatever they wanted. There was no standard, correct?
Right.
And I think that's why some people would invest in the parklet and it looks beautiful. Some others just put like a tent and don't fix it.
Yeah.
And that's not really pleasant. You want to
and
have
for our audience that's listening, they have a nice wood structure, good plastic frosted windows, lighting on the inside. You guys have heaters.
Yeah.
And the look, like you're saying, is it's seamless all the way down. So it's not like, which parklet am I supposed to go to? No, it's pretty obvious which one you need to be in front of.
And we personalize them.
Yeah,
too.
They're all personalized. I see Cuisinette's on there. Looks like you've got some wine box, the ends of wine boxes on there, which is cool. And then and then it's marked for the next restaurant down and further down. So that's what helps too. It's just making it comfortable, right?
So those parklets have been saving a restaurant's life for sure.
Yeah.
Especially for me, that I took off some tables inside of the restaurant in order to do that French market.
Yeah.
It was important to have that parklet, and the good news is the city gave it to us until September of 2023.
Oh, nice.
They're working on a master plan for the downtown and how to include like outside dining with restaurants. So that's kind of the good news. Now it's going to be interesting to see what will the city do. And, from that experience, I've learned a few things. The first is location is vital. So like I'm on I would call it like a side street. Right. So my location is not prime. And when COVID hit, as it comes back to a better business, you can see that if you're on the side street, it will affect your business. So now I'm kind of doubting sometimes, is my location, because like I know the concept has been received really well. It's like maybe I'm too small on a side street and I should move to a better location, slightly bigger, and I would do so much better. Yeah. So that's one thing that I've learned with COVID. The second is it's very difficult to be in restaurant business because lately we've been hit. So I was talking multiple times about labor shortage.
Yeah.
That's for all restaurants and retail, hotels, everybody's hiring. There is like very, very difficult time to find employees. Then, because we live in the Bay Area, it's very expensive. So people need to get paid more. And we already pay above the average. So I have the same team for so long and I pay above what is the average around.
Sure.
And even with that, we still have a hard time to find employees. But then lately, of course, the whole supply chain and the food cost is increasing. I just have one item that I'm going to have to remove from my menu because the price went up too high.
Yeah.
For the duck leg confit.
Okay.
And it's like, if I have to leave it on the menu, the dish is close to $50. I'm like,
yeah,
doesn't match with the concept anymore.
Right.
So, like we're running through those challenges of, like a restaurant is like a simple equation. It's food cost plus labor cost.
Yeah.
And those costs give you a prime cost. And if those two costs are rising so fast, restaurants are going to run into a huge problem. So I think the way it's going to work in the future, I can see for me is fast food will always be doing great. They were meant for pandemic. They showed they did so well. And they show also that some people don't really care what they put in their body as long as it tastes good.
Right.
So that's one. The second is the fine dining, I think, is going to come back because people have so much money around, and especially in big cities.
Yeah.
And so that one will stay. And I think everybody in the middle will have to revise their business model, the casual dining, I call it.
Yeah.
Like the bistro like me or the trattoria like for Italians. Or all those middle of the line restaurants have to find new ways to attract people. And I think what it is tomorrow people are not going to go out just to eat, but the main reason why people are going out are the entertainment part, the experience.
Yeah.
And I think if we start refocusing on that, so like for example, for me, some restaurant wants to focus a lot on to-go and working with DoorDash and everything.
Yeah.
And for me, I said, actually, DoorDash is not my priority.
Yeah.
I don't want my kitchen to be backed up and my customers eating at the restaurant having to wait an extra 30 minutes because my kitchen is too small. And now, or even the audience right now, next time you go to a restaurant and the restaurant is kind of slow, but your food takes forever. And you can see it's probably because the restaurant decided that they wanted to emphasize the to-go through Uber Eats, DoorDash.
But what's unfortunate with some of these, to-go delivery systems, they're charging a premium just to get your food. So let's just make it simple. Like, let's say you had, let's say just French fries, for instance, is, it's not the cost, but let's put it at $5. They're going to charge $8 or $9.
Yep.
And then by the time you get it with delivery fees and tax
15.
and everything, it's now a $15 order of French fries, you know? And at that point, I started to realize, because, I know you from coming here in the past, and, I used to work nearby, and that's how I ended up coming here a lot. And, you just want to go to the restaurant and just order directly. A lot of times the owners will tell me, or the workers will tell me, hey, can you not order from there because we're losing customers by them going to DoorDash, because they'll go to DoorDash once, and then they'll see the bill and they don't come back for a while. Rather than going through you directly.
So the other thing is, and I think, I don't know if the audience knows that, but one of the main issue with the DoorDash and Uber Eats is they take also commissions out of the restaurant. We're talking about 30%.
Yeah.
Maybe 25 at the lowest.
Yeah.
And so imagine a restaurant's margins are already very, very thin.
Yeah.
And if you already take upfront 30% out of that sales price, I mean, most restaurants that focus only on to-go don't make money out of it.
Yeah, you guys get nothing.
Yeah. So
and I think, their model changed from being a corporate model. So they were a corporate delivery system for the most part.
Correct.
Yeah, DoorDash was mostly corporate. And so, if you worked in an office and you had a hard time getting decent food, you'd order from there and then you would be able to get it, which is fine, paying an extra premium because you're getting it out of convenience, and it's helping everybody at the same time.
For sure.
But now that it's, become a regular thing, folks got to understand that you've got to go, you got to try to go directly to restaurants to support the restaurant.
It's always better. But, it's funny, because for me, the way I look at it is I do want to refocus on the experience.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, we're not just serving food. It's really about the experience.
Yeah.
Experience from the time you put your first foot into the business, the service, the quality of the food. You want to be consistent. That's kind of a key. And, the way I look at it is I think in the next few years, so we will have restaurants that will focus more on the experience and less on those to-goes or things like that.
Yeah.
But then the experience will prevail in the sense of, especially with the remote work, people will want to go out. They will want to share those great moments. And I can start seeing it slowly here. We'll have some people coming either for lunch or dinner, and they were working all day long behind the desk at home. And then they just come out and you can see the joy on their face just to share a glass of wine and or a bottle of wine and food and being able to discuss.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Moment.
And then just to highlight, let's highlight some food at Cuisinett. Why don't you tell us, some of your favorite dishes? I know there was one based on a book, and it was in a book. I think the mussels recipe was in a book.
So that one, so it's that recipe has been in north of France. We call it the moule marinière, the mussels with the marinière sauce. And this one is very particular to me because that was the dish we would eat every Saturday at home for lunch.
Awesome.
And I remember when you make that big pot of mussels, and you have to shake the pot to make sure that all the mussels open, correct?
Right.
And I remember when I was 7 or 8, my mom let me do it, shaking the pot, and I've been sold since then. Yeah, the mussels.
And what makes that recipe what it is? Like, what do you put in there?
So for us, the way we do it is we use a dry white wine like a Chablis.
Okay.
Then we use a shallot confit. So we confit our shallots here at the restaurant.
Okay.
And that gives almost like a little sweetness to it. And the third part of make it very special is, so I couldn't find the same mussels that we have in France. They don't sell it here.
Okay.
So I found these mussels in Canada called Salt Spring Island.
Okay.
And they're kind of bigger. So, like a lot of restaurants use the small Prince Edward Island, the PEI.
Yes.
But those ones are too small for me. So they're more like a little touch. But I really enjoy those mussels, Salt Spring Island, because you can make a main course out of it. And they're delicious. They have like a little sweetness to it. They're not rubbery or anything like that. And so when you mix, like when we cook that dish, you of course we put butter, shallot confit, the white wine and the lemon, and then the juice of the mussels comes out and mixed with this broth.
Yeah.
And
I've had it. It's delicious.
Pure heaven.
You usually want to take whatever that can soak up that broth to finish it off. Bread.
So bread we do it. So
French fries even.
I know. We do it. So in France, here at the restaurant,
Fingers.
we do bread on request. That's one of the things that changed through COVID.
Yeah.
We're trying to avoid waste a lot.
Sure.
So that was kind of good. So if you come to eat at the restaurant, always ask for bread.
Just ask for it.
We have it. It's just we don't want to waste it.
Understood. Totally understood.
The other dish that makes it very popular here since I opened is we have a rotisserie chicken. So I have a rotisserie that I bought from the beginning, and our process to do the chicken takes 2 days. So we brine it for 24 hours. The brine, what it does is it basically takes the juice of the chicken out, and the brine goes inside of the chicken. So you get the flavors within the chicken. So that's for 24 hours.
Fantastic.
Then we put the chicken on the rotisserie, make sure that it's cooked through, 165 degrees minimum. And then after that, we let the chicken rest. So we never cut the chicken after it was cooked.
About how long do you let it rest?
We let it rest until the next day.
Okay.
And the main point of that is all that brine that was inside in the rotisserie is basically boiling. And, it's like if you cut it, all the juice goes out.
Yeah.
And then you end up with a dry chicken.
Yeah.
Same thing when you cook a steak. You want to let it rest before you cut through.
Sure.
So then the juice inside kind of
stays inside.
And
with the chicken, it almost like it's not confit, but it's almost like some of that juice gets to chill, right? Yes, because you're leaving it in the fridge overnight, and then when you go to cook it again and heat it up and get it nice and hot, all that juice comes out.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's I'm gonna use that trick.
Yeah, it's 2 days, I like that. But I'll tell you, it's
worth it. I like marinating stuff and And people don't realize just that extra effort. It gives it a whole nother, takes it up to a whole nother level.
I was saying earlier, it's all about the ingredient and how you do it. You know, if you start with great ingredient, you're going to end up with great product usually.
I think that's kind of, you know, we're kind of winding down a little bit, but is there any, if there's one dish that you wanted everybody to try, not necessarily your restaurant, but French in general, like what dish would you say, please go out and try this, or
you know,
if you know how to make it, you can tell them how to make it.
So I always love a good bœuf bourguignon, the stew, the beef stew.
Yeah.
Because this one takes long time. It's not complicated, but the flavors you get out of it is always delicious. And especially if you reheat it it's definitely a great dish to try. One thing I'm tired is people always ask me if I do a French onion soup. And if you go to France, you won't find it often. You'll find it on the Champs-Élysées in Paris or in a touristy spot.
Yeah.
But if you ask any French people, French onion soup is not a common soup. And here, I sit in most of the French restaurants. I'm like, oh, it's funny because, you know, they want to see the cheese melting on top and everything.
The toast and
it's kind of like, I always feel bad because people think of that stereotype about French people eating French onion soup, and we barely eat it.
On that note, like what do you think are some of the common dishes that are seen rather than the touristy dishes we see out here?
So France, for sure, we're known for our French sandwiches and baguette.
Okay.
But compared to the US, one of the big difference is we usually use only like maybe 2 or 3 ingredient max.
Okay.
And the sandwiches are not too heavy, too thick. So that's definitely a classic. A
is it usually like a meat, cheese, and like a greens?
Yeah,
maybe.
Very simple.
That's it.
Exactly, not too complicated.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really good is French food. We're known for the stew. Like we have a lot of good stews.
Yeah.
And then what I really appreciate is everything that we would tend to grill or pan-seared, but it will come with a sauce. And that's kind of the trademark with French food is most of the time you always have like a little sauce. It could be like a red wine reduction sauce. It could be a beurre blanc. It could be a sauce vierge. It can be so many different sauces.
Yeah.
But usually that's what's going to make like the little different and very put the French stamp on the dish.
Nice. I like it. And then, you know, some of the questions I always ask is there a favorite tool you like in the kitchen that's my go-to tool? It's something that I like to ask people.
I would say a thong. A thong is so important to cook.
The tongs?
Yeah, the tongs, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can grab like,
your
meat, your ingredients, your produce. You can toss a salad. So the tongs are very, very important for me as a tool. I'm not into those fancy tools like, let's say, sous vide and things like that. I think it's great though, but it's just I'm more like down the line, you know, simple.
Yeah. And then just kind of close it out. The floor is yours. You can say whatever you like. Any advice you want to give? Anything that you're working on coming up? Anything, you know, maybe some new dishes or something you've got going on at the restaurant? Tell us anything you want to say.
So the first thing is I'm happy the way we pivoted our business model with the French market, the bistro, and the to-go was definitely a good thing. We constantly try to improve ourselves in the sense of, you know, like you don't want to rest on what you've done. So it's like whatever you see today at the restaurant, I already think of what I'm going to do in 6 months to a year. What's next? Mm-hmm. So definitely that. Our menu is pretty static. We don't change too often, but we always have like new specials coming up. Like right now, we just started an all new natural pork chop, 12 ounces. Goes super well with our mustard cream sauce and roasted veggies.
Yeah,
delicious. Then in terms of other projects, you know, like I still think of opening other restaurants. That's one thing, but you know, it's kind of scary with the way the economy is, and the industry as a whole is difficult for restaurant, and it has. I mean, you need a lot of capital up front.
Sure.
So the risks are really high, but you know, it's kind of like you never stop thinking. What's next? How can you make people happier and better? And it's, as I always say, for me, the way I look at the business is your number one are going to be your employees. You want to make sure that they can work in a great environment. You take care of them. Employees are number one. Number two, you always make sure that your vendors are taken care of. You pay them on time because they provide you with the best product and all of that. And third are your customers. And if your employees and your vendors are taken care of, the customers are going to be happy. They'll come and they'll see that it's a great restaurant. The food is consistent. The service is pleasant. And that's what I want for my business to be.
100%. On that note, appreciate you. Thanks,
you.
everybody. We're out.
All right. Thank you.
And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support, and thanks for listening.